7 United States senators just put a price on the Clarity Act. That is the law that decides how XRP gets treated in America. 7 names, 5 asks, 11 days. That page decides what your 2,500 XRP is worth. In a minute, I'll show you exactly what their yes costs. Senator Cory Booker wrote the sentence that gives it away. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell if you want more XRP news. Let's roll the tape.
The Republicans put forth some ethics language, really great, but the Democrats are still saying, we want a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, what was this, 616-page, revision. And then you have, I think it's 6 Democrats, if I'm not mistaken, who are kind of like the make or break of getting this through. So I hope it can, it's like Ron Hammond was telling us when we were on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It's the government, and at the 11th hour they can throw a wrench in, and so it's like you just don't know what they're going to do. You and I were both such a champion in previous episodes of Also Brooks, and all of a sudden she's kind of about-faced and is singing a different tune. So I don't know. We shall see.
Yeah, and some of this, look, it's the sausage-making process of I'm going to come heavy-handed so that we can negotiate. I think, they might be trying to play their cards that way because, to your point, also Brooks, she helped get this bill out of the Senate Banking Committee. But the Democrats overall, including her, are saying we want each state attorney general to enforce this, but they're all different states. How do you get all of these people on the same page? It's going to be a mess. So I don't agree with that. But again, this could be a negotiation tactic. Okay, you want us to back off on this issue? Well, give us this issue.
Here are the 7 names. We've got Angela Also Brooks, Cory Booker, Catherine Cortez Masto, Ruben Gallego, John Hopkins-Looper, Mark Warner, Raphael Warnock. They signed one statement on Wednesday. Their verdict on the Republican text of the Clarity Act was 2 words. It falls short. Then they said they want 5 things listed strengthened. Ethics for election officials, consumer protection, illicit finance, conflicts of interest, market integrity, 5 items in writing, 7 signatures under them. In 4 years of XRP news, I have never seen the holdouts write down their price. One of these 7 wrote a sentence I cannot stop reading. Here is what Cory Booker actually said. The new Clarity Act text is a Republican text. There's only one way to get there, which is a bipartisan pathway. Hear those 3 words. To get there, a senator burying the Clarity Act does not say to get there. Then they name the problem, and it's real. The Clarity Act put ethics enforcement inside the Justice Department, and that department answers to the President Donald Trump. As it was reported, that circle is exactly Angela Also Brooks' objection. So the Democrats want state attorneys general enforcing it too. That is not a wall, that is a clause, and clauses get written in a weekend. Now look at what real money is doing. That is Polymarket asking one question. Is the Clarity Act signed into law before January 1st, 2027? Tonight, that market sits at 37.5% with about $2.77 million behind it. And I'm reading it live with you. Here is why it matters for XRP. Through the worst news week the Clarity Act has had, that number has held in the 30s. So pick your side. Is a written list of 5 demands a negotiation or a wall? Drop negotiation or wall in the comments and tap the like, subscribe, and that bell while you're down there.
And more investments.
Absolutely. I think that more regulation, although it might be counterintuitive, is actually quite helpful for builders and investors alike, because if you think about building or investing in something that could change through new regulation or just overnight regime change, it's very disconcerting. And I think that you see people sit on the sidelines in the absence of having that clarity, no pun intended. But I think that the passing of the Clarity Act would be a major catalyst, and we're very optimistic that in the coming days, I know we're getting down to the wire, but it is still possible that it passes this summer. And I think that would also help to be a catalyst for crypto prices moving in sympathy with it.
Absolutely. It feels like the market is nearing a bottom, right?
We hope.
We hope. I do a little bit of chart analysis on my end, amateur hour, but still it feels that way. And look, markets are cyclical, so I feel like going towards the end of the year, we'll probably be back in a better place, I think.
We're optimistic, and I think for us as a group of people that are overall long-term conviction in the asset class, we try not to sweat the small downturns. I would also say that this particular downturn has felt more mature and less volatile than others. I think I pulled a stat for another podcast where there were times when it wouldn't be unusual to see a 10% down in one day. And I think during the most recent downturn, the most we've seen is 2-3%. So while that's still significant, and I understand why it might rattle investors, it is very different from the environment that we were in past downturns. And I will also say, you look at the Bitcoin ETFs as an example, they've been able to process billions of dollars in outflows, which is not what we want to see, but it does demonstrate the orderly nature of these markets. They're able to consume in a very liquid way, both inflows and outflows, which speaks to the validity of the ETF wrapper for this asset class.
I want you to notice who that was, not a commentator. Grayscale builds and runs crypto funds for American investors. And that clip went up yesterday. That is the buy side calling the Clarity Act a major catalyst that can still pass this summer. When the people managing the money still say possible, that beats 10 headlines about XRP. And Krista Lynch named the mechanism out loud. Crypto prices move in sympathy with the law landing. Your XRP sits inside that sentence. Hold on, because one thing still stands between all this and a signature, and I'm going to put it on the screen next. Here we see the official Digital Asset Market Clarity Act with the representative French hue. Here is the XRP calendar in plain English. 594 pages already reported out of Senate committee. 11 days from the floor, and 2 of these 7 Democrats are ones who voted it out. August 7 is the last realistic day the Senate can act. After that, they leave for the summer break. Tony Edwards said it on tape. August 7th is the hard date. On Thursday, Majority Leader John Thurn said he does not expect the Clarity Act to pass before that break, while his office says he still intends to move within days. A leader lowering expectation before he files closure is floor management. A 37.5% market already prices that. Closure takes 60 votes. Every Republican plus 7 or 8 Democrats. XRP needs 7, and 7 just wrote down what they want. Here is where this actually stands, and the number I promised you. Last week, nobody could tell which Democrats were the holdouts. Tonight, you have all 7 names, all 5 asks, and their own closing line. They will keep working to get this over the finish line. That is a negotiation in writing. 11 days out on the law that prices XRP for a decade. Meanwhile, the XRP price sits at $1.09 right now, barely moving, as none of this is on the calendar. This is analysis, not advice. The crowd prices paperwork late and then super fast. And if I'm wrong, you'll see it before I even say it. Watch that poly market number. If it slides under 30% before August 7, the trade broke down, and I will tell you live. That is the number I'm watching with you, and you'll know the moment it breaks. But today, the tape says something better for XRP. Here is a part I want you holding on to. A wall does not send you 5 edits in a signature list. A wall says no and goes quiet. These 7 sent their price in writing 11 days before the deadline, and every one of those 5 asks is a paragraph, not principle. That is the difference between XRP waiting on politics and XRP waiting on paperwork. For months, the people standing between XRP and the Clarity Act were just a number. Now, they are 7 Americans with name, states, and a list of what their yes costs. Lists get filled, walls never come with a price. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.